Hey, what is going on, everyone? It's me, Mr. Mario, back over here yet again at the PlayStation 4 for something pretty exciting with the Vue After Free jailbreak. Now, for those who do not know, Vue After Free is a jailbreak that I have been covering here recently, which ends up allowing you to take any model of the PlayStation 4, including the original PS4, the PS4 Slim, or the PS4 Pro, as long as it is between firmwares 7.00 and 13.00, you end up taking the abandoned PlayStation Vue application, you end up modifying it and carving it out a little bit and essentially turning it into a fast, quick, easy, and free jailbreaking tool on your PlayStation 4. So that way you can just turn on your PS4, you run Vue After Free, and then within a few seconds you're jailbroken after everything is set up. Now there's been a couple ways I've shown how to install this here, but there's been a recent update in the Vue of Vue After Free 2.0, which ends up adding something pretty awesome here. Right here, thanks to Dr. Yen Yen, it has an extended storage install available, citing this means you no longer have to factory reset your console to install or repair the Vue exploit. See the README on how to use it, which of course we're going to be going through the README on here. All credit where credit is due, thanks to the VueMini team right here. But as I've said in previous videos, if you're needing more detail or if you're wondering about anything with questions, troubleshooting, you get lost on something, the README for it is here, and this will be linked down below in the description of the video. The method we're specifically going to be using is for non-jailbroken PS4 extended storage and save resign. And yet again, credit where credit is due, this is really just going to be a video visual adaptation of these steps right here. So if there's any steps you need at least in writing or that might be a bit confusing, feel free to refer to the original installation instructions here. Again, I'm really just taking these and kind of adapting them into a video. Now I'm showing this here again because this introduces a third really useful installation option. You see, previously we had two options. The first one was if you did not have a jailbroken PS4 and you did not have a way to jailbreak your PS4, you could install Vue After Free. Unfortunately, it did require using a system backup, meaning that you had to wipe your entire PS4 and all the data on it in order to jailbreak the system. Alternatively, if you had access to another kind of jailbreak, such as BDJB, WebKit, PPPwn, or any of the other ones out there, you could use another jailbreak to then allow you to install Vue After Free and keep all of your data while upgrading and updating your jailbreak method. However, there's people out there who did not want to wipe their system, which is understandable, and also did not have another entry point to jailbreak their system. Hopefully this method is for you. However, we're going to check a prerequisite real quick. This method has a hard requirement here. You must, on your current PS4 right here, you need to have an account which has been activated. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can check this out real quick. From your PS4's main screen here, you can hold down the PlayStation button on your controller, go to Power, and go over to Switch User. Now look at your usernames. If you have users such as Mario or Vue User, which are italicized, that means that they have been PlayStation Network activated, and that means you can follow along with this tutorial. If your users look like this, offline, where it could be capital, lowercase, it doesn't matter, but the text is not italicized for the username, that means that you do not have a PSN activated account on your system, and that is a hard requirement. You need a PSN activated account in order to follow along with this video. So that being said, yet again, I'm going to repeat it because this is very important here and I don't want y'all to waste any more time. If you do not have a PlayStation Network account already on your system, you cannot continue on with this video. You also cannot update your system and add a PlayStation Network account because then you will ruin your chance of jailbreaking your system. You must stay on a low firmware. So keep that in mind. Now, if you're on a lower firmware and you have another way to jailbreak your system, such as with the network over PPPwn, a Blu-ray disc using BDJB, or even WebKit over your network yet again, or over the internet, you can follow along with my video showing how to upgrade a jailbroken PS4 to Vue After Free. And finally, if you do not have a PlayStation Network account on the system and you do not have a way of accessing any other jailbreak, you're going to have to refer back to my original video, which will require you to wipe your system. So those are your options right there. However, if you have a system on firmware 13.00 or lower and you have an account like this, which means it is PlayStation Network enabled, it is activated, and the text is italicized on here, then congratulations, you can continue on with this tutorial. And we're going to be using that account right here. Now there's a few prerequisites we need to look out for now that we have the account in place. The first thing is going to be you must check your firmware version. In order to do that, you can scroll up, go over to Settings, scroll all the way down to System, and go to System Information. Inside of here, look for the System Software version. Now, Vue After Free requires you to be on at minimum firmware 7.00 and at most firmware 13.00. If you're within that range, you're good to go. And when it comes to PlayStation 4 jailbreaks, typically you want to stay on your firmware version. You really don't want to update unless you have a very good and explicit reason to do so. But if you're on a firmware higher than 13.00, what you're going to want to do is disconnect your PS4 from the internet, keep it unplugged, and just be patient. Eventually, jailbreaks do come out for these firmwares. You just really have to be patient when it comes to the PS4 scene. Now, exiting out of here, next up, we also do have a hard requirement on this in which we do need a network connection of some kind to the PlayStation 4. You don't have to have internet on it. It would help to have internet, and I'm going to show you why, because we'll be able to easily download some applications, but you need a network connection of some kind going to your system. We can also go ahead and set up our DNS blocking on here. For this, you can navigate up here, go to Settings yet again, go down to Network, and go to Set Up Internet Connection. Now from here, select which option you're going to connect with using Wi-Fi or using a Ethernet or LAN cable. I'm going to be using the LAN cable option personally, and navigate in here. We're going to go to Custom, and now set automatic for your IP address. Unless you have a specific IP address that you want to plug in, then you can do manual. Otherwise, just do automatic. Do not specify for DHCP hostname. And for the DNS settings, you want to set this to manual. And this is typically the DNS which is recommended. This DNS address is just going to go into the primary. This will essentially prevent any type of updates from getting to your system. Although unfortunately, this does not work for some folks out there, and that really depends on your internet service provider that you're using. They might essentially be taking control of your DNS, which means even if you set this up here, you might still be getting updates, and you just have to cancel out of those. Alternatively, if this one does not work, you could also set your DNS address to 127.0.0.2. The downside to that is that it will not allow any type of internet access on your system, but it will allow network access to the system, local network, but nothing on the broader internet. Just keep that in mind. Once you put your DNS settings in, you can hit Done, go to Next, Automatic for MTU, Do Not Use Proxy, and Test Internet Connection. As long as you get an IP address successful, you should be good and you can now continue on. Lastly, it would also be good to disable updates on the system itself to applications, the system, whatever it might be. In order to do that, navigate up here to Settings yet again. We're going to go all the way down to System, go to Automatic Downloads, and make sure all of these options are unchecked. That way we're not going to have any type of automatic downloads that might surprise us. Now with all of that done, there's really one last thing that we need to do here. We actually need to set up the jailbreak itself. So for that, you're going to need to go over to a computer in order to download a few files, transfer a few things, and also run a few applications. You're also going to need an external drive of some kind. Now, unfortunately, using a USB flash drive like I usually recommend is not going to be enough for this method. You are going to need to have an external hard drive or external SSD of some kind. This is personally, you can see here what I'm using for my setup, but you're going to need an external drive like that of some kind. It must be at minimum USB 3.0, and it must be at least 256 gigabytes in size. With all that said, let's go ahead and move over to our computer with the USB drive and get sorted out. There's going to be several downloads we're going to need here, and the first of which is going to be over at the Vue After Free GitHub repository. Now, like I said, I would recommend giving a good once over, a good read on this here. If you have any additional questions, a lot of them are answered on the README here. The folks who wrote this did a pretty great job of it overall. Now, what we need to do is navigate up here, click on the releases page, and we're going to download the latest release available. At the time I'm recording this, it is 2.0. Scroll down here to the assets, and the one we're going to download is Vue Extended Storage.7zip. Just go ahead and save that somewhere you can easily find it. The next thing we need to download is going to be Balena Etcher. This will be linked down below in the description with everything else. Go ahead, click on Download Etcher, and from here, go ahead and download this for whichever operating system you're using. If you've never jailbroken a PlayStation 4 before, we're going to need a HEN payload. That is Homebrew Enabler. And for this, the most popular one, and I would say most recommended one, is GoldHEN from Sistro. In order to download this, I'm going to have their coffee page linked down below. just go over to the shop section right here and then find the latest version available. At the time I'm recording, it is 2.4 beta 18.9. Click on it, and from here you need to give this a download. Now in order to download this here, you can go ahead and donate either nothing or as much as you want to. And the thing I've been keeping in mind and telling people for a while is that if you do appreciate and value the work that Sistro is putting in here, a donation is always recommended and encouraged. However, if you just want to get the download, you can put in 0, click on Get Now. You'll have to put in your information, such as your email address, and from there, you should be able to get a download, and you can save that somewhere you can easily find it. If you're having trouble extracting any of the files that we're downloading, you're going to need to use 7-zip for this. It's free, easy enough to use, and you should be able to set it up pretty quickly. Just go to the link in the description, click on download, and then download this and install it for your preferred operating system. Now we are going to be messing with our saves later on, but until then, the last download that we really need for now is going to be the PlayStation 4 store or the Homebrew store. I'm going to have this link down below as well. Just go to the releases section and we're going to download the store r2.package file. Don't download the legacy version, don't download the PS5 version, that one won't even work on the system here, but just download store R2. Now here we go, we have all these wonderful downloads available, but the first one we're going to work with is the Vue Extended Storage. Right here, grab your Vue Extended Storage, right click this, and use 7-zip to extract it to its own folder. Once you have it extracted into its own folder, we can actually just delete the archive just to clean things up a little bit. Go into your Vue Extended Storage folder, and you'll have an online save resign folder and a Vue Extended Image.7zip file. Right click this and use 7-zip to extract it right here. Now when you extract it out, it's going to give you a bigger file right here. This is PSView 256GB.zip. We don't need the extend image, so we can also delete that, but this is the one we're going to have to work with. What you'll need to do now is take your USB drive, make sure it is plugged in, and we need to back up any data that you might care about on this. Yet again, like I said, this needs to be at minimum a 256GB drive. I can tell you right now, I don't care about the data on this drive, but just keep in mind what the drive letter is, and keep in mind that this is going to wipe any data from the drive. So now with that in mind, I'm going to close out of here, and let's go ahead and run Balena Etcher. Now once Etcher opens up, the first thing you need to click on is Flash from File. Navigate over to the Vue Extended Storage folder and find the PSView 256GB file. Make sure it is a zip file and then click on Open. Now it's going to tell you you're missing a partition table. Go ahead, click on Continue. Next up, select your target and make sure your USB drive has been connected. So you can see here, I actually end up using a 500GB SSD that I have right here, but you're just going to need to check this drive, hit select, and now click on Flash. It's going to give you a message like this here, and just go ahead and say, yes, I'm sure. If a user account control pops up at all, just go ahead and say yes, and at this point, you can now wait for this process to finish up. Now, according to the documentation here, it's going to stay stuck at 0% for a while, and then it's going to go to 85 to 99% for several minutes, and then after that, it should be good. You just need to let it finish without interruption. Once it flashes the image, it's then going to verify the image from your same drive, and once that's done, we should be good to go. Now, keep in mind, if you run into any issues about the image being damaged, what you'll have to do is really just delete this Vue Extended Storage, re-download it, re-extract it, and then try this process again. But let's go ahead and just wait for this to finish up. All right, and after some time, we are done. Now, the good news is we are pretty much done with the hardest part of this, I would say. Partially, this is difficult just because you need to get the drive set up and going and imaging it, but this will also take the longest in this whole process. So once we're done, we can go ahead, exit out of here. Now go ahead, disconnect your storage and take it over to your PS4. Once you're back over at the PS4, go ahead and plug in your storage, and if you wait a little bit, you might see the PlayStation Vue application pop up. If not, it's all good because you do need to do this next step either way. Navigate up to Settings, within Settings, go all the way down to Storage, and you should see your system storage as well as the extended storage. Navigate into Extended Storage, go over to Applications, find the PlayStation Vue application, press the Options button on it, and then hit Move to System Storage. We're going to select this, Move, and say OK. Wait a few seconds, and at that point, we should be all good. So there we go, we've been able to move that over. So congratulations, we're all set up now. At this point, the hardest part of the process is done, but we do need to go back over to our computer. And if you want to use that same storage device, I'll show you how you can restore it and how we can use it for our next steps. Now from here, in order to make our storage usable again, if you want to reuse this for either this purpose or another purpose, what you can do is if you're using Windows, look up disk management and either open that up or the create and format hard disk partitions setup. As long as you have your drive connected here, once it pops up, you're going to get a pop-up here asking you to initialize your disk. Make sure it's selected, and then we can use GPT. Hit OK. Now you should see all your drives available, but the one that we're going to be modifying is going to be this one here, which is going to be unallocated. Just go ahead, click here, right click, do a new simple volume. We can hit next, just navigate through all this. We're going to set this here to exFAT if you do intend to transfer files to put on the PS4 for your jailbreak. Hit next, hit finish. Wait a few seconds, and there we go, it's been set up. We can now close out of here. So here's our drive. You can see it's recognizable, it's exFAT, so we're all good to go at this point. But even though we have these files here, we're actually going to go back to the PS4 and then back here yet again, because we are going to need to grab a save file. More on that in a few seconds. Now that we're back at the PlayStation 4, you are going to have to be signed into the account that is activated that you're going to want to use for this. And as long as you're signed into the activated account, plug in your USB storage. Again, this can be a flash drive. It can be the drive that you just fixed and set up again, as long as it is exFAT. Go over to your settings, and we're going to go over to Application Save Data Management. Go to Save Data in System Storage, copy to USB storage device, and from here, take any save available and copy it over. I'm going to pick Untitled Goose Game for the memes here. We're going to select that, copy it over, and there we go, we're all done. Keep in mind, if you do not have the ability to enter here, if you do not have this, that means that your account has not been activated. Again, I have to stress this here, you must do this with an activated account. However, since we have this save, we can now unplug our drive yet again, and we're going to take it back over to the computer, and we're going to do a little more work there. Back over at the computer, plug in your USB drive, now navigate into it, and there's going to be a PS4 folder. Inside the PS4 folder, there'll be a save data folder, and inside the save data folder, you're going to have another folder with a random assortment of numbers and letters. That is the account ID that we're going to need here for an upcoming step. Now, just to clean this up here, grab your save data folder, right click, and cut this out, and then paste it on your desktop. So we'll have our Goose save data there for safekeeping, but it is going to be useful in a few moments. And on the drive itself here, we can go ahead and delete this PS4 folder, so that way we have a completely empty drive to work with. While we're also doing a bit of cleanup, we can get rid of that Balena etcher setup, since we're not going to need that here. So these are pretty much the 4 files and folders that we need to be working with. We're now going to focus on making our own modified save data, because that is going to be required for this jailbreak. So go into the Vue external storage folder, and there's going to be the, of course, PS Vue 256GB zip, which we're not going to need at this point. But the only folder here that we need to pay attention to is online save resign. And there's going to be several folders inside of here. Now, just breaking this down, this here is your folder structure. So we have a PS4 folder, a save data folder, and inside of here, that's where you would have your account folder and then these saves in there. This one, the CUSA00960, is already an encrypted save. And then this one right here is going to be the decrypted save. But what we need to do is we need to take one of these saves and we need to resign and encrypt it to our profile. Now, there's several ways to do this here. One of them is using a free Discord bot, but I'm going to be honest, I don't really like just saying join this Discord server just to get something. You can also use Save Wizard, although that is a paid program, but a really awesome happy medium between the two is using this website, Garlic Saves. This will be linked down below in the description. However, what you'll need to do is register for a free account and then get signed in. I've already registered, so I'm going to sign in real quick. Once you sign in, it's going to look a little something like this, and from here you're going to have to provide an account name. So the account name on mine is Mario, and then you have to put in your account ID. You remember this save data folder I had you back up? Go ahead and open that up. Like I said, in here you're going to have a folder with 16 characters. What you'll need to do is right click on this, click on rename, and from there you should have all the numbers and letters highlighted. You can right click them and click on copy. Now within Garlic Saves, go to the account ID, right click, paste, and then hit add profile. So now that you have your profile added in, we're in a good spot. Now on the left here, you'll need to click on Resign. Now as you can see here, using this requires an encrypted save, which is one that we do have. So go ahead, find your profile, enable it, and now click on here to browse. Navigate to your Vue extended storage folder, go to the online save resign folder, go into the CUSA 00960 folder, and the two files we need are localstorage.aes and localstorage.aes.bin. Just highlight the both of them and click on open. Now click on Start Resign. And there we go. Thankfully, I was able to do this process within a minute. Depending on how many workers are online and how much traffic this website is getting, it might take longer. But once you're done, all you need to do is click on Download Result. So once you're done there, you should have your Resign save to your account, and we can start working on getting everything transferred over and setting up our USB drive. Let's go ahead and get that save transferred over because that's going to be pretty important. So navigate into your drive. It should be blank at this point. From here, go to the Vue extended storage folder, go into the online save resign folder, and we're going to grab this PS4 folder, right click, copy it out, and in your USB drive, right click and paste it. Now open up the save data folder that you made before. For this here, we can just create a new folder. We can rename this yet again. We're going to copy out our ID, and within the PS4 folder, save data folder on the USB drive, create a new folder, and we're going to put our account ID in there. Next up, just keeping the structure in line, we're going to need the CUSA 00960 folder, so we can grab that name and navigate inside of your account ID folder. Once you're in here, right click, create a new folder, and we're going to call it CUSA 00960. Now navigate inside of this folder. And once you're here, you can go ahead and grab your re-signed zip. We're going to right click this and we're going to extract it out right here. It should give you two files here, local storage AES and local storage AES bin. Go ahead, grab the both of these, you can cut them out, and then paste them into the CUSA 00960 folder. So just to double check your work, it's going to be the USB drive, PS4 folder, save data folder, account ID folder, CUSA 00960 folder, and then these are the re-signed saves that you just made. So now with all that done, the other copies should be much easier, thankfully. We do need GoldHEN that we downloaded earlier, so you can right-click your 7-zip archive and extract it into its own folder. From here, open up the GoldHEN folder. You should find a goldhen.bin file. And if you need to look for this or you can't see it properly, make sure View, Show, File Name Extensions are enabled. Right-click the goldhen.bin, copy it out, and then go to your USB drive and paste it next to your PS4 folder. Now you need to right-click this, rename it to payload.bin. And finally, the last piece of this puzzle is going to be the store R2 package. This one you can just drag and drop next to everything else, so this is at minimum how your USB drive should look. By the way, if there's any other packages you want to install, for example, applications, emulators, games, whatever it might be, the packages will also be on the root here. However, I'm going to show you the store where you can download a few starter applications. So once that's all done, we can exit out of here. Be sure to safely eject your USB drive, and let's take it back over to the PS4. Now, in order to set up the jailbreak here, we will need to copy that save to our internal storage. In order to do that, hook up your USB drive, navigate. Now we're finally at a point where we can set up the jailbreak process, and in order to do this, we must take that re-signed save and we're going to transfer internally to the PS4. Plug in your USB drive, navigate up to settings, make sure you're signed into that account you did this all on, and then we're going to go back to application save data management, save data on a USB storage device, copy to system storage, and you should find a save here. Go ahead, select your one save for PlayStation Vue and copy it back over. And there we go. That's all we really need at that point. So now we are ready to actually jailbreak our system. Hopefully you have your network settings dialed in, everything else has been configured as earlier in the video, and if you're ready to roll, just go ahead and navigate over to PlayStation Vue and open it up. If you end up getting a message like this, just go ahead, hit OK and continue on. Now, once this pops up here, it's going to give you this option whether you want to install the full version or the light version. And by the way, you should also congratulate yourself here. If you're seeing this screen, that means you've done everything properly so far. Now, real quick, if you want the full install, I would recommend doing that. It's going to give you a lot of nice extra options and it doesn't take up too much storage on your system. But if all you care about is loading up the jailbreak and that's all you want to do, the light install is going to do exactly that. I'm going to use the full install, so go ahead, load that in, and let's let it do its thing. When you're at this screen, don't worry, your system is not stuck or frozen, it's just downloading the required files in the background. This took about a minute on my connection. And there we go. Once the installation is completed, it should tell you that. And check this out. It now says Vue After Free. So congratulations, you've been able to set up Vue After Free. Now, if you want to actually run the jailbreak here, well, this is what you've been waiting for. Go ahead, highlight jailbreak, tap the X button, and wait. It's going to detect your firmware, and then it's going to give you a jailbreak success message. And it should now find that payload on your USB drive, and it's going to copy it internally to the system. Give it a few moments while the pop-ups disappear, and once they disappear, press the PlayStation button on your controller, and you can now close out of the PlayStation Vue application. So congratulations, your system is now jailbroken. Now your system should look about the same here, and that's because we really haven't configured anything, but if you navigate up here, you're going to notice there's now a GoldHEN setting, which replaced the previous PlayStation Plus setting. So congratulations, you are jailbroken, like I said earlier. Now there's going to be a few settings we need to set up here within GoldHEN. The first thing is going to be the debug settings. Navigate in here, and for this, for the debug settings, you're going to want to make sure this is enabled for the full menu. And if you want to, you can even enable game debug settings. I personally like having that, so that's all good. We can go over to cheat settings. I'd recommend having the cheat menu enabled. You can also change the show title ID right here, so you can show the title ID, the app version, or both the title ID and app version for your applications. This is going to be up to you, and I personally think it's useful. Just keep in mind if you have a ton of applications and games installed, it might slow down performance of your menu. I'd also recommend here, if you're connected to the internet, go ahead and update the cheat archive. There we go, it's going to be updating the cheats. We can exit out of here, we can go to plugin settings. I'd recommend enabling the plugins loader. We can also go to update patch archive. And there we go, it's updating the patches, and we can also update the plugin archive. Looks like that one failed here, so let me go ahead and try this again. Now it looks like there's no new plugins detected here, but I am wanting to enable these two, so we can't do that just yet, but we can get back to it. I'll also show another way to download these here. We can also go over to the game overlay settings. You can enable the FPS counter if you want. I'm also going to show that, and you can also enable the system information right here if you want to see some pretty cool nerdy technical settings. I'm not going to be doing that here, but that's really up to you. Text position, text color, scan lines, you can enable or disable any of those. There's also these server settings here, where if you want an FTP server, you can enable that. If you want to send payloads from another device, such as a phone, tablet, or computer, you can enable the payload server. Finally, there's also a kernel log server, but really, if you're not going to be debugging anything or doing any development, you really don't need to have this one enabled. Next, we can go over to our settings. Rest mode, I would definitely recommend using. PPPoE patch, that's for ppPwn. If you're using the network entry point on firmware 11 or lower, I'm not going to be using that, so I'm going to keep this disabled, and I'm personally going to enable BD auto kill because I still like to use my Blu-ray disc. Now you can also go over to date and time options. You can update the date and time from here, and you can even enable auto update of date and time every time GoldHEN is started. Lastly, you can go over to the about section here, and you can check out about GoldHEN, where it shows all the lovely features which are available here. You can check out the cheat menu credits. There's also the plugin credits. There's the About Me section, where you can learn a little more about the developer here. And here you go, it brings you over to Sistro's GitHub page, so if you want to check this out, you can. Although I'll say this, probably better to do that on a phone or on a desktop, just compared to the browser on here. Lastly, if we're going through the rest of these, you can also check out the GoldHEN supporters. So if anybody has supported GoldHEN, they show up on there. And if you donate, your name can show up on there as well. There's also ways to support GoldHEN, although I will caution you all, you can check this out, but it is much better to hit this website on something else. Like this is the coffee page here. You can see it's just not great to load it through here. So I'd recommend doing this on a different browser. And lastly, there is also a pretty cool old school crack draw if you want to see this. I'm not going to spoil it too much, but I will show you the beginning here. It looks pretty cool. So there we go. That's a bit of how these settings work for GoldHEN. Now, if you're wondering how to install applications, if you haven't messed with a jailbroken PS4 before, you can navigate over to here. We're going to go to settings, go all the way down to debug settings, game, package installer. And there's only one package I have on here, which is the store. So we're going to go ahead and install that. If there's any other packages you have on here, feel free to install them, but this is the only one that I really instructed. Now the Homebrew store is pretty nice because, well, it is a Homebrew app store where you can get some nice Homebrew. You must be connected to the internet, of course, but let's go ahead and fire it up. When you first launch it, it's going to ask for an update. Go ahead, hit OK, and let it update. Once the update's been applied, hit OK, let it do a little bit of a soft reset, and here you go. If you like the Homebrew store and want to donate, you got a few options there. We can go ahead, drill through that, let it pre-load the icons, and here we go. It'll look a little something like this. Now there's a few applications if you kind of want to get started that I could recommend here. We can just go into the store apps, and the first one is going to be Items Flow. This is just an alternative game launcher if you've never used this before, and also allows you to pretty easily dump and back up your games and such. So we can navigate out of here. The next thing I also like is PS4 Explorer 2.0. This is a really awesome file manager application for the PS4. You can also use something here such as Apollo Save Tool, which is a great, as it explains here, while self-explanatory, it's a great save tool and allows you to do a whole lot, and it even has a nice cache of saves available, which you can access if you're wanting to mess around with some games, or just get a little further. Lastly, you can also get the PS4 Cheats Manager, just in case you want another way to download your cheats, your plugins, and your patches. But it also allows you to do a little bit more nitty-gritty things and just looking into the cheats individually. So that's a nice one there. The last ones I might recommend here would be, let's see, Remote Package Installer, which essentially allows you to send your package files through the network from a different device over to your PlayStation 4, so you can install them without having a USB drive to rely on. And lastly, another one is Icon Mask. I haven't included this in other videos here, but this just ends up making your icons look nicer and you can customize them a little bit on here. So I've personally liked it before, but let's go ahead and give that a download, and those are pretty much the downloads that I recommend giving a try. If there's any other applications you want to give a shot, look into, download, try out yourself, feel free to, but those are some of the applications that I recommend for a first-time jailbroken owner. Now once everything has finished downloading, we can go ahead and exit out of here, close out of the store, and you see we now have some nice new Homebrew applications and unsigned code right next to all of our other games here. By the way, these are some games I previously installed which work on jailbroken systems here. I will have videos covering that here because this isn't really specifically about the games, but we're going to do some fun game stuff. Now, one of the things you can get into with a little bit of fun is the PS4 Cheats Manager, which here is pretty self-explanatory, and this also gives you another way to download some of these as well. So what you can do if you need to update anything, you can go to the update section, and you can update the cheats, patches, and plugins here through the internet. Now I've already done these here, but if you want to download them, you can go through and download the cheats. There we go. We also have the ability to download our patches, and we also can download our plugins. Now I like doing that just in case there's an issue with the downloads there, so that's a second way of doing it, but that's also important because we can go back to our GoldHEN settings, go to plugin settings, and what we can do is enable the game patch plugin, so we can actually have some fun with patches in game. Now I'm talking about a few of these things here, and what exactly can you do? Well, just as a quick demonstration, I'll go ahead and show you some cheats here. What you can do is take one of your games here that might have cheats, and keep in mind it depends on not only the title ID of the game, but also the exact version of the game that you have installed. So depending on your patch update, some cheats might or might not work, but it also depends on the actual build of the game itself. Now one, for example, we can try is Maneater. I know this one does work, so if you want to load up any cheats, go ahead, find a game, load it up, and this can be from disk, it could be digital, or it could be a fake package game. Now I've skipped ahead a little bit just to get in game here, and I'm literally right at the beginning of this, but if you want to load up any cheats for a particular game, I know this one has them. For example, you can hold down the share button for a few seconds and the cheat menu will pop up. Now the game that you're playing might not have cheats available, but if there's multiple cheat sheets I can say available, you can press left and right to navigate through them. It looks like this is the only one available from Tyler Mods for this one, but if you want to enable any of these, you can just go in, enable these cheats here. Let's go ahead, just do all of that. Why not? I have a feeling it will break the game a little bit here, but you can see here, those are enabled, those are working, and the nice thing is once you have those cheats enabled, then you can have a little bit more fun with your games. Now for actual patches, these load up a little bit differently. You have to find your game, and before you boot it up, press the options button on it and go to the GoldHEN patch menu. And from here, you can enable or disable any of these patches. So I'm actually going to enable all of these. Once those are all enabled, let's go ahead and launch PT. You should see it will launch a little bit differently. There we go, 5 patches applied, 5 patch lines applied, so that is a good sign. I do have a save pretty early at the beginning here, and I've said this before, but if you've played this game or you've seen it or anything, the game does run at 30 frames per second, and this thing is terrifying if you've never played it before. But you can see here in this room, we are loaded up at 60 frames per second. It is running, it is working. Keep in mind, I'm running on an original PlayStation 4, so I'm not going to have all the benefits of it. But you can also see if you've played this game before, the screen does look a lot clearer than it was just because we got rid of the film grain and such. The only thing is, this is more with the engine and how the game's designed itself. Once you come in here, it does drop to 30 frames per second, but you are able to see the difference if you've either seen gameplay of this or you've played this for yourself. Now that we had some fun with our games, if you want to look into any extra settings within the Vue app itself, go ahead and check this out by launching the PlayStation Vue app. This will be after it has been jailbroken, but you can also configure this a little bit further. You can go into the config option right here, and you can enable, for example, auto lapse if you're using lapse, which is on firmware 12.02 or lower. If you're running any firmware higher than 12.02, you're going to be using the poop exploit here, which, yeah, I have to reference this.
Look, we're adults in here, you can say it.
Poop?
You said poop! I said! I said poop in here!
Poop!
So since my system is on 9.00, I'm going to use auto lapse. I'm also going to enable auto close, disable music, auto detect is fine, and there's even theming options available. Although I won't go into them in this video here, you do have that ability. So I'm going to go ahead and go back. Now, another thing to keep in mind here is that this message might get a little bit annoying if you are annoyed with that. So if you do want to resolve that here, you can go to the payload menu, and there's a fake signin.bin payload that you can run. In order to do this here, just go ahead, launch fake signin.bin, wait a few moments. And there we go. It should tell you that you're signed in and reboot to apply. So we can do exactly that. Let's go ahead, hold down the PlayStation button, go to power, and then restart the PS4. Now, I've included a lot in this video because this is going to be aimed more for people who have never jailbroken a PlayStation 4, but after you restart your system, you might notice here the jailbreak's not running, and any of these games, literally any of these games, any of these applications you just installed are not running. Well, this is how the jailbreak ends up working. Whenever you do a full power cycle on the system, meaning you ended up cutting the power to it, you turned the system off, you restarted it, you ended up getting a power outage, whatever it is, the jailbreak is lost because this is a tethered temporary jailbreak. So in order to jailbreak the system now, all you need to do is launch PlayStation Vue and wait for the magic to happen. And there we go. After a few seconds, you can see we were successfully jailbroken. We got GoldHEN already loaded up, and everything else is all good. By the way, if you haven't already, you can go ahead and disconnect your USB drive now because we're not going to be needing that. If that does annoy you, by the way, you don't want to relaunch this every single time, one thing that people have been using, which is thankfully pretty stable now, is rest mode. So I'll even show you this, for example. What you can do is put your system into rest mode instead of restarting it or turning it off, and let's just make sure our jailbreak is still working. So now that I've got a solid orange light on my PS4, let me go ahead and turn it back on. Hopefully you all heard the beep, and let's just make sure this comes back on. It's coming out of rest mode. We have all of our icons and our app version stuff showing up there, and FTP, payload. So congratulations, we now have our system still jailbroken without having to restart the whole thing or turn it off and turn it back on. So now the idea is we should be able to open up anything here. So I already showed like PT wasn't launching, but you can see here it's now launching. And then we have the frames per second and also the patches showing up. So everything's good to go at this point. So that is a way you can kind of retain your jailbreak in a way without doing a full power cycle. Now, a lot of people might also be worried about updates, whether they're updates to the apps or updates to the actual system firmware, because I'll tell you the easiest way to lose your jailbreak completely is to update your system firmware. We do not want to do that. So there's a few things to keep in mind. Number one, while the jailbreak is running, like right now, GoldHEN itself actually has capabilities built into it which end up blocking system firmware updates. So even if a firmware update ends up downloading, it cannot be applied while GoldHEN is running. But if you want something a little bit more robust, you can also go into the settings, and that's why I had you all set up your network settings here, Within here, we did the custom settings, automatic, do not specify, manual, and this IP address right here, like I said, will end up blocking game updates, app updates, as well as system updates. Now, if this one is not working for you and you're still getting some updates, you might want to try 127.0.0.2. Like I said, that one will end up only allowing local network access and will completely block greater internet access, unfortunately, but that one does work there. And if that one's still not working, then at that point, that is your ISP doing the blocking, so you're gonna have to do a little more blocking within your router settings themselves. So we at least have a couple ways in place there which can prevent us from updating. But the last one here is also going to be within our settings, going over to system, and like I said earlier, disable all of your automatic downloads. I'll tell you this, I've had this system since it was on firmware 1.76, and I have updated it accidentally exactly 0 times. Every single firmware update was intentional on this one, so I've been able to keep this one at a lower firmware and still keep it jailbroken. Now, the very last thing I can cover here is the save that we worked so hard to get set up on here. You see, we did need a modified build of PlayStation Vue, but we also needed that save, and that save is incredibly important. Now, thankfully, you might still have it on your PC, and if you do, keep this save somewhere safe. That way you can always restore it if need be. And from there, the idea is if you ever need to restore the save for Vue, you can go ahead and navigate up here, go to your settings. You have to set it up on your USB drive like I showed, and then you can go to save data on USB storage, copy to system storage, and from there you can just copy your PlayStation Vue save over specifically for your account which you have modified and re-signed. You might have to do that and keep this one safe because occasionally this save could get corrupted or could even get reset. And if either of those two things happen, then unfortunately, you're going to lose access to your jailbreak right here until you end up having your save set up again. So you can see right here, everything seems to be working fine, so we're at a good spot. Either way, that is about it for this video here. I know there's been 3 videos showing how to install and set up this jailbreak, but they have been for different reasons, different use cases, and different scenarios. So the good news is, as long as your PS4 is on firmware 13.00 or lower, you should have a way to jailbreak your system, whether it's already jailbroken, whether it uses extended storage like this, or if you just have to completely wipe the system, start over from scratch, and restore backup. You have 3 good options right there for jailbreaking your system, and it is a great time to do so. Like I've said in my other videos, I would like to give credit where credit is due to the fine people in the bottom right corner of this here, which includes UFM42, Cow AR, Earth Onion, Hello Uno, Gajina, D-Link Turtle, Dr. Yin Yin, The Flow, as well as ABC. Whether they worked directly on the application, indirectly worked on it, or even ended up working on things outside of Vue After Free, which were utilized by the Vue Mini team, all their work is really appreciated here for having a pretty easy to use, once it's set up, pretty easy to use, streamlined, and especially stable jailbreaking method. Either way, that is about it for this video here. This is Mr. Mario, signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, a like would absolutely be appreciated, and if you didn't like it, a dislike is fine as well too.